Welcome, everybody, to the Hounds podcast. This is your home for field trialing and deer dog hunting. It'll be stories and discussions on the world of dog hunting. So let's drop the gate, cast your hounds, and get ready for another episode of the Hounds podcast. The Hounds podcast is proud to partner with Outdoor Dog Supply again for the 2025 season. Outdoor Dog Supply is the leader in online garment sales with their world-class trade-in programs. These guys are not just a business, they're also houndsmen and women too. They test their products out in the field and really put them to the test. Get the latest in garment equipment, stay locked and ready with field trial equipment, collars, leashes, and so much more. Visit their website today at outdoordogsupply.com, and we want to thank Outdoor Dog Supply for their support not only for the podcast, but in the field trials across the country. When you're looking for your next purchase and equipment, keep Outdoor Dog Supply in mind. Now let's get this episode started, guys. Thank y'all so much. Welcome, everybody, to the Hounds podcast. On this episode, we're going to dive into some more deer dog stories. Then we're going to talk about some of the upcoming stuff that we have planned. Then also give you a little update on some spotlight around the field trialing world. So we're going to dive in first. Like I said last week, we're going to start off each episode with a type of inspirational quote, and then also with a weekly Bible verse. So the inspirational quote for this week was, and this one I saw actually literally on Facebook right before I started recording. It said, "You're not stuck, you're just scared to start." And I thought that one was really good. I didn't see no name behind it, but that one really kind of stuck out to me a little bit when I saw it. It said, "You're not stuck, you're just scared to start." Maybe that'll speak to somebody. And then the Bible verse for this weekend comes from 1 John 4:11. "Dear friend, since God loved us that much, we surely ought to love each other." Just thought that was a good one too, from the ones I've been seeing from this week. So I hope everybody can take something from both of those. On this episode, again, I was trying to get some stuff recorded with some people, but I think just about everybody that I have on my radar that I want to get recorded with is actually at the All-American this week, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit here in a little bit as well. But so we're going to do yet another solo, so y'all forgive me, but I plan on I want to talk about some deer dog stuff again. Last week we touched on raising puppies and kind of the step-by-step process. So what I want to do is I want to talk about my first pack. I know y'all probably heard me mention some different things. The Vader group is what I call them a lot. But I want to talk about that first pack and kind of their origin story, where they come from. That kind of is a steamroll from last week. So we'll kick it way back. Growing up, my dad always had deer dogs. My grandpa always had deer dogs. We always had some kind of deer dog. We always had some kind of deer dogs around the house. I was raised in a very old school way, I guess you could say, of deer dog hunting. It was no GPS collars, no beep beep collars. It was the old school. When you get off of work on Friday, you come and you flip the latch on the gate and let them run. And them dogs they took off down the driveway, went across the street, went over into the hunting block, and got to running. And when they got done running, they'd make their way back home. Usually they're back home by the next morning, and they'll sit around in the sun, bake outside in the sun, get some water, get some food, get rested up, and then head back out again Saturday night. Do it all over again. And then by Sunday morning, you wake up before you go to church, or either after you get out of church, and go put them back in the lots, and they're good and rested back home. Of course, it's not as easy to do that no more. Those were the good old days when you could really do that and get away with it. So, but man, that's how I was raised deer dogging. And so my dad had packs, and that's how we raised them, But we had packs throughout my whole life, and he did a really good job about, doing that kind of stuff to raise good dogs. We always seemed to have a really good pack, and especially looking back on it now, as a kid, I didn't know how how blessed we were to have such a good pack. It seemed like almost all the time. But Dad did a really good job of doing that. And he had a dog that he called Trouble back when I was really, really little and before I was born, somewhere in that range. And he loved that dog. It was a stand-up dog. You can ask anybody in our hunting club, and if you say Trouble, they know whose dog you're talking about. One of those kind of dogs. So, a lot of his dogs that were at the lots and at the house stemmed from that dog. And that dog stemmed from old Cheatham stock. And that's what's always, that was a learning curve for me. If you were raised in the deer woods and strictly in the deer woods, paper dogs weren't a thing. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not for everybody. I'm not saying that's across the board, but the area that I grew up in and I was raised in, I never heard of Hellum stock. I never heard of, any kind of other papered stock. Like the biggest thing was, for the guys that we hunted around was, pull a piece of paper out of the truck and throw it on the ground, and that's how good that paper is to most of those guys. And if that paper can't run the deer, then they really don't care about it. So that's kind of the group that I was raised around. So it's always funny to me, like going from that kind of environment, those kind of people, like when I say raised on these dogs go back to old Cheatham stock. When I say old Cheatham stock, that means it was Mr. Cheatham that used to hunt with us back in the 80s and 90s. He had good dogs from what I was told. And if you have something around here that goes back to old Cheatham stock, then that was the thing to have. So that was what that Trouble dog was out of, some of the old Cheatham stock around here. And went back to some of my papa's stuff too. I don't know that far back on how all that kind of stuff was done. Like, who took what dog to who and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, long story short on that end, when I was in high school, getting ready to go to college, Dad had a really, really, really solid pack. And to show you the age of the dogs, they were, when I was 18, I had named those dogs when they were born. So they were probably 3 or 4 years old when I left for college. And at least the original group. And I had named them all after NASCAR drivers. Me and my brother named them after NASCAR drivers. So we had Jeff, Terry, Bobby. God, what was the other one? There was another one. Oh, and my little brother was big into monster trucks. We had a Medusa dog. And then Dad had a little bit older female that was named Pee-wee. So it was a mixed up jumble of names. But anyway, and then I think off the Pee-wee dog and maybe the Bobby dog, or maybe it was Jeff. I can't remember. I think it was Bobby. It was Bobby and the Pee-wee dog. He had another litter off of them right before I went off for college. And that dog's name was Jack, and he was turning into a real unit. Well, with college coming, things got tight. That's just the easiest way to put that. Things got tight around the house, and Dad just really couldn't manage being able to keep all the dogs. So he ended up giving all the dogs to a friend of his that he worked with that hunted up in a couple counties above us, and just told him, said, look, if I ever come back, if we ever get back into it, I want to be able to breed to them or either get these dogs back. So, he had to take a break from dogs while I was at college doing that. And, that's just one of those sacrifices sometimes you got to make. He knew he wasn't going to be able to do the dogs right. They were too good of a pack to let go. He kept the Bobby dog. The Bobby dog was a really standout dog, really good dog. He just couldn't let him go. So he kept Bobby dog around just in case. But coming back to it, after college, and I've probably told the story on a previous episode, but after college and I got out, one of the first things I knew I wanted to do was I wanted to raise my own set of hounds. I wanted to raise my own set of deer dogs. I've always piggybacked off of him growing up. Obviously, when you're younger, there's no real way to raise your own. I mean, you can, but most kids don't, especially with the expectation of going to college like I did. And it was a tech school. Y'all don't think I went to some fancy college where I had to actually learn something valuable. But I went to a tech school. But anyway, when I got back, that was one of the things I knew I wanted to do. And by then, my dad had got some stuff back right, and he had gotten some dogs, gotten a new set. The other dogs had made their lives up there. And he didn't really feel right taking the dogs back from the guy. So he let the main thing, he kept on with that. If we can breed to it, we can breed to it. So anyway, when I got back, he had a gyp. And that gyp's, it was Ethel was her name. He had got a set of dogs from somebody. I don't know where they come from. Just old mixed up tree stock dogs, whatever they were. But anyway, he called them Fred and Ethel. It was brother and sister. Ethel was a really good little gyp. And then that Jack dog was still alive. So we made the phone call up there when Ethel come in heat and got Jack to come down here. And we're able to lock in some puppies with that cross. So that kind of goes back to last week's episode of I knew Jack was a good dog. We talked to that guy. The guy assured us that Jack was a standout dog. Really, really good dog. One of the best up there that they have. And then this Ethel dog was a really good dog. So I knew taking both of those together, it was a good chance that something good was going to come out of it. So I made that cross. And I did just like I talked about in that week, last week's episode. I think it was 6. She had 6. And I'm a Star Wars nut, so yes, if you couldn't tell by the Vader name, I'm not gonna say I'm a Star Wars nut, but I do enjoy my Star Wars movies. So me and my wife are big into those, and we decided to roll with the Star Wars theme for the deer dogs. So we had Vader. Let's see, we had Vader, Sith, Maul, Ren, and then there was one that my dad was gonna keep, but after he had kept it for a little bit, he was like, this dog doesn't need to be separated from his brother and sister, so he gave it back. And that we called that dog's name was Brownie. I didn't name it. He called it Brownie. Or maybe some, I don't remember. Anyway, but so we had that group. Yeah, so that's right. But yeah. So it was 5. Excuse me. I think I said 6. It was 5. It was the 4 males and the 1 female. The Hounds podcast would like to take a minute and talk about our friends over at Cajun Lights. When pleasure running at night or judging those nighttime field trials, you can put your trust in Cajun Lights. With the economical Cajun Bayou for the every now and then light user, the Cajun Micro for the nighttime feeds and around the house times, then the top level Cajun Blinder for those hardcore crossing getters at night. The Cajun Lights are headlamp style light that free up your hands for voice recorders or your GPS. They offer flood style lights in red, amber, and a white walking light. Then the top of the line 4-level main beam light. If you're having a hard time catching crossings at night, give the Cajun Light a try. And the red and amber setting to catch the game without distracting them. And with the easy flick of a switch, go back to your main beam light to catch your hounds in action and get those numbers. Visit their website today at CajunLights.com, and at the checkout, make sure you fill out the survey after your purchase and select Hounds Podcast to receive 5% off your next purchase with Cajun Lights. Now, let's get back to the episode. So anyway, if you want to hear exactly how I raised them, go back and listen to last week's episode. It was after 3 or 4 months, they were getting in the truck, they were going riding around, they were learning, putting them in the woods, making them cross creeks, doing this kind of stuff. If I could get get my hands on a deer hide, I'd get my hands on a deer hide and do some scent training with them. But I put a lot of work into those pups, and they were born in April of 2017. So Vader will be 8 this month coming up. So anyway, they were born in April, and I worked on them all summer, just playing, doing different things. And then hunting season comes around. Of course, I'm gung ho, ready to go, and putting them in the box at every chance I get. I'm putting them with an older dog. I'm putting them with that Bobby dog. I'm putting them with good dogs. I'm putting them out there by themselves, letting them figure it out, letting them run, letting them do this thing. And I'll never forget the first time, to me, it really clicked for them. They had kind of popped in and out of some chases most of the season. They had kind of gone. They get in the woods. I get them back, that kind of thing. It got a little frustrating. Well, finally, I had an opportunity, and there was a deer that come up to me. And I was getting to the spot in the truck as the deer popped out in the road, and it ducked back in. And I just took straight to the box, and the deer was still visible. At that point, I put aside to where I could shoot the deer and said, these puppies need it more than I do. So I slammed on the brakes, backed the back end up where they could still see the deer, jumped them out of the tailgate, ran down, hooping and hollering. By then, the dogs that were already running the deer had caught up. They got in there with the one other dog that was running the deer, and the puppies took off, and every single one of them hit the trail, and every breath. And I was like, oh, that's it right there. So that was my first hot track. I was like, oh, man, you talk about excited, man. All that work, you're like, all right, we're getting somewhere. Yes, it was a hot track. Yeah, you just put them in there with a group, but you just visibly watched your dogs that you put all that time, all that effort. They're going back to your family stock. There's a lot of heritage around here in those dogs, and you've done all the work that you can do, and that just right there just made it all worth it. It made it to where, it made it all come clear. And I was like, all right, cool, man. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm watching him carry it across. I think the deer actually did get killed in front of them. So, they were able to get that reward at the end of being able to sniff it and lick on it and that kind of stuff. So that right there was the day to me that stood out. It was like, all right, it clicked for them. It clicked. So, throughout I think that was about 2 weeks, maybe a week left in the season. So it was like 4 or 5 weeks of pushing these dogs, testing my patience, and like, all right, got to keep pushing. Pushing. And so the next the final 2 weeks was going, and they would get in there. They were still doing good. They were getting there, but they never really done it by themselves. They always needed that little bit of help. So last day, I feel like most clubs have a last day, last chase ritual, or a big to-do. So ours is every dog that's in the box on the last chase gets casted. Everybody knows where you're going to be. Everybody picks a stand. You don't move from your stand. We surround our one big block that we have, and everybody that's got dogs, we make the call over the radio, and we dump the box. So we did that. I had my puppies in there by myself, and we backed up to this big block, gone in there, and man, I'll never forget it. They're going down through there, and I'm hiking and I'm hollering. Next thing I know, I hear old Vader dog, bow, bow, and I hear, I think it was Maul, if I remember right, bow, bow. And the next thing I know, it was like a freaking light switch. Every dog in the whole packing and hit. I'm like, oh, you know what? They done jumped. I done run back to the truck. They done jumped. And, about that time, everybody else's dogs are starting to chime in. And then I'm like, all right, well, that's their first jump by themselves. So I'm freaking pumped. Even though it's the last day of the season, I'm like, all right, heck yeah. They just jumped all by themselves. They didn't have no help with it. Next thing I know, I hear, I'm listening. This is before I even had GPS. I didn't have no GPS, no beep beep. So, it was solely based off of where they going. And, a few minutes later, they had kind of made a loop. I could hear them making a loop going up around the right side of where we were. And then up that direction, I hear, pow, pow. And I think it was Herbie, little farmer, Herbie Jones. He got on the radio and he said, Lugnut, just killed one in front of your dogs. And I'm telling you, I've shot deer in my life. I've had some awesome chases. I've had a lot of exciting things happen to me in the deer woods. But when somebody come over the radio and hollered that they shot a deer in front of the dogs, that was all done by them. And I asked him, I said, how many dogs are standing there with the deer? He said, 5 dogs, and they all got your collar on them. You want to talk about a proud moment? That was it. That was it. That was the time that I was already hooked as a deer dog hunter. But that was the time that I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, is have deer dogs and have these moments like this right here. And that was just, man, that was such a surreal feeling that I didn't care what the rest of the dogs were doing. All I wanted to do was get to them and see what was killed in front of them, be with my dogs, and just be happy about that kind of situation. And I mean, I was just, you couldn't have told me nothing that evening. It was such a good evening. We're going to take a quick second and pause this episode and talk about our partners over at Elite Nutrition. Our hounds, they're athletes, guys. They give us their all each and every time that they're casted. Elite Nutrition offers an all-natural products to give your dogs the natural benefits they deserve. From the canine remove and all-natural wormer to the Electro Boost paste for an electrolyte replenishment, body fluid balance, and blood flow improvement. They also have products like Active Dog Powder for recovery and joint muscle support, Essential Dog Powder for daily vitamins and minerals, probiotics, prebiotics, and enzymes, and then the Canine Lactate Powder for nursing dogs to help with milk supply. There are tons of other products for y'all to check out at CajunLights.com. Then click on the Elite Nutrition section to explore. When you go check out, only at CajunLights.com, use the code HTElite10 to receive 10% off your Elite Nutrition products. Again, that's HTELITE, the number 10, to receive 10% off Elite Nutrition products only via CajunLights.com. I've been using their products over the past couple months, and I could not be happier with the results. See for yourself today, and we want to thank Elite Nutrition for taking a step forward into this field trial sport. Now, let's get back to the episode, guys. But that's kind of their story on their raise up. Their raise up and up to when they clicked fully. Ever after that, it was on, man. They were a dream pack. That was a once in a lifetime pack. That was a pack that I could take, and I had the confidence with that pack that I could take them into any block and turn them loose. And if they didn't hit, I promise you there wasn't a deer in there. I had a lot of, it was a real fun group to hunt over. And if everybody gets lucky enough to, and I hope everybody does, I hope everybody gets the chance to hunt over a group like that, that special, that when you put them in the woods and you put them on the ground, you know that something's going to get moving. And it was like that. They were, I mean, maybe not kill rate, because, there's always different situations, but they were almost 100% jump rate. Like, it was no question, man. And that was such a good pack. So, when I was sitting here thinking about what to do with this episode, I was like, well, I could continue with this story with the Vader group. Tell some old stories. I know one that I always thought was cool was, I know a lot of people, when certain weather situations hit, like snow and rain, they're going home. They're packing up. They're like, no, I'm not getting out the truck. Well, that's my favorite time to hunt. I love hunting in bad weather. One of my favorite ones was there was a bad snow. I want to say 2018, 2019, something like that, up here in the middle of Virginia. And I just remember, and there wasn't a lot of people out, but I was dang sure going to be out. And these dogs that I had, the Vader group, was mostly white. They had some tricolor, had some brown spots. The female was mostly white. She had a little lemon on her ears, but she was mostly white. Vader's that real pretty coon stock looking tricolor is what I call it. But for the most part, they're white. So we're running. We're out there in the snow, and I'm not stopping. The snow is pouring down. I'm talking, it is pouring down snow. I think we ended up getting like 8 or 9 inches that hunt. I mean that snowstorm. But anyway, I'm like, nope, I'm not stopping. We're probably 3 inches on the ground already, and I'm turning loose. Here we go. Put them on the ground. And I get them, I'm walking them in there, and I let them go out there and hunt. And they get one going. They're going and going, and they're running. And I get to this field, and I'm sitting there listening, and I look, and I got my ears out, and I'm like, man, them dogs sound close. I ought to be able to see them things. Not thinking about it's whiteout conditions. You can't see anything in general, much less a bunch of white dogs. So I'll look out in the field, and through the heavy snow, all you see is little black and brown specks from the tricolor, just going through the field, and all you hear is that bark, 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 bark. I mean, get barking, got that chase and just absolutely screaming going through this field. But all you can see is these little black specks, and I was like, you know what? Once this one's done, I think we might have to call it a day. So, the Hounds podcast is happy to announce our newest partnership with Low 10 Outfitters. If your kennel is looking for new apparel to rock to the next field trial, look no further than Low 10 Outfitters. They offer shirts, hats, hoodies, coats, and other accessories with custom logos for your kennel or your hound to go on. With top quality merchandise and long-lasting quality, you can't go wrong with Low 10 Outfitters. And very soon we will be offering Hounds podcast apparel on their website at low10outfitters.com. So be on the lookout for that coming up here soon. Thank you, Low 10 Outfitters, for teaming up with the Hounds podcast. And don't forget, guys, low10outfitters.com to get your apparel for your kennels. Now, let's get you back to your episode. That was a fun one. That right there will always stick out in my head of watching the dogs bring one across the field and not even being able to see them probably 80 yards away. It was raining. It was snowing so much, and the dogs were so white. That's all you could see was the black specks going through the woods, or going through the field. Excuse me. And then rain's one of my favorite ones to hunt in. You get me a nice steady rain. I mean, obviously a downfall, that's a different story, but a nice steady rain throughout the day. Let me get out there and turn them dogs loose. Ooh, baby. God, I love it. And I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but I've always had good luck running deer in the rain. So I remember one time we took and we had a spot we call Big Hill, and I had turned loose going at the bottom of the Big Hill and heading them up towards the cutover. I said they're going to be laying down in this thick stuff down here. So I sent him through the thick stuff, and sure as shit, they got one open. Got one up on his feet. Made a big loop. And I'm sitting there. I mean, it's cold. My hat's gotten soaking wet. And of course, when it's raining like that, you can't hardly hear footsteps. I'm sitting there listening. And I'm like, man, they're getting close. Coming right back to me. Here they come. And I'm waiting, and I'm, most people are sitting there waiting, and they're like, all right, wait to hear the crash and wait to hear the footsteps. And there was nothing like that. It was, you have your gun pointed down to keep your bullets and everything dry, keep your shells wet. Keep your barrel and shells from getting wet. And that deer popped out. I mean, all of a sudden, I threw the gun up. Pow, pow, pow! Folded that sucker over in the middle of the dirt road. And the dogs were right behind them. I mean, by the time I got done shooting, here come the dogs hitting the road. Jumped on top of them. That deer was dead. They got the reward of seeing what they were chasing. And it was pouring down freaking wet. Pouring down raining. But man, I always tell everybody, I'm like, everybody, I hear people say, "Oh, I'm out hunting in the rain. You can't run nothing in the rain." Yes, you can. You can surely run something in the rain, and I absolutely love running in the rain. Now, judging a hunt in the rain, that's a different story. But so I got 2 more stories to tell y'all, and then we're going to move into the last couple sections. The first one was, the next one is, a lot of times I've talked about on here, you got to be careful with who you're hunting around. You got to trust people. It's teamwork, and it's also making sure that you are being smart with every shot. So, that pack, we were running one day, and this was they were in their prime. They were probably 2 years old at this time, just clicking away. I mean, just in the best shape of their life, doing everything that you can ask for out of a deer, set of deer dogs. And they had some pretty good speed for some old tree stock dogs. So anyway, this one deer was giving us a fit. And we're out there, and finally, it's them made loops, and people are hollering, "Can't shoot the deer, can't shoot the deer." I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Can't shoot the deer. And I know the dogs run a little bit close. But, and it finally, the deer decided it was going to come and test me. So here it comes. I'm sitting in the power line, and I'm watching this thing come through the woods, and these dogs are right on top of its heels. I'm like, oh, okay. So the deer pops out, and I throw the gun up, and about the time I throw the gun up, the dogs grab another gear and pull up beside it. I'm like, there's no freaking way. And then I understood what the heck they meant when they said couldn't shoot it. It's because the daggone dogs were so close, I was afraid to pull the trigger on it. So we had to let this deer finally get enough gap on these dogs and shake them one good time for somebody to finally shoot this thing. And it took so long because these dogs wouldn't give it a break that finally somebody caught it to where it had put just a little enough distance on it. And man, that was another proud moment with those. It made it a pain in the butt to hunt, but man, just knowing them dogs were going stride for stride with that little bit, with that buck like that, it was, man, golly. And then, the last one, and this one, I love telling this story because it's kind of hard to believe, but you can ask anybody that was around how many shots they heard and how many deer got drug out. But this was, I don't remember what year it was, but anyway, there was a time we turned loose in this bottom. It was a little ravine, and it goes down. You know how like a river ditch or a ravine going towards the bottom is. So I'm walking these dogs down in here, and they jump quick. I mean, I'm talking maybe 50, 75 yards into the woods, full cry. Going into the woods. They go down to this one spot, and they make a loop and coming right back. I'm like, oh, crap. So I get up on one side of the bank. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna they're probably going to run up this bottom. So here come the deer up to me. And then, it was a quick little loop, so it kind of put a little space between the dogs and them. Here come the deer. And they both stop right in the middle. I mean, maybe 50 yards away from me at the most. Probably more like 30 yards away from me. And they stopped side by side on the opposite side of that bottom. Straight at me. Side by side. I could see enough of each deer. I'm like, I got to try it. And I put the bead right in the middle of both of them and pulled the trigger. And both deer, straight to the ground. I'm like, no freaking way. No freaking way. And that was in front of the Vader pack. I'm telling you, man, that pack had so much blessings behind them. And I'll never forget it. So I'm like, I go down there and make sure they're dead. And I'm dragging one back up there to the truck, and my cousin rolls up, and she said, "Oh, dang, you done brought the deer out here." I said, "Well, yeah, don't get too comfy." I said, "You go help me get the other one." She said, "You only shot once." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And sure enough, we had to go pick the second deer up. But man, that was such an experience. All the dogs come back and just sitting there. I mean, I think the chase lasted like 3.5, 4 minutes, something like that. It was such a short chase, and got 2 deer out of it. The dogs did what they needed to do, but we just got lucky on that day. So, but guys, that's all I got for the deer dog stories for this week. We're going to move into the around the house section. So, don't have a whole lot, but we're going to move into it right now. All right, y'all, now it's time for Around the How, presented by Elite Nutrition. Just make sure you check out their products, Elite Nutrition products, at CajunLights.com. And for 10% off of Elite Nutrition products, when you use the code HTELITE and the number 10, that's HT Elite 10 at checkout. All right, let's get it rocking. All right, so this week, not a whole lot going on. Well, we got a little bit going on. The All-American is this week. I just thought that would be kind of a special note. For those that don't know what the All-American is, it is a week-long hunt. It's 4 days of running. So what you do is you run the first day, the second day, the third day. Then after the third day, you have to make a certain percentage. And I don't remember, right? I think it's the top 20%, if my brain suits me. It's either top 20 or 25% of the field advanced to day 4. So, so it starts on Monday. You run Tuesday, you run Wednesday. So you run a 3-day hunt. Then you make the 20. If you make the top 25%, top 20%, then you get a day of rest, which I believe if I'm not mistaken, they do the bench show on the 4th day. And then on the 5th day, you get the last day. So you have 4 days of running that you got to do. And you want to talk about making a tough hound. There ain't many of those hunts left that are 4-day hunts. And this is one of them. This is one that I really wanted to go to this year, but nothing would line up for me. So we skipped it this year. Maybe here in the next year or two we can go to it. But it looks like the scoring is going great down there. I see 3 trailing scores, good amount of hunting scores, and I think it's 900 to lead on the speed and drive. So, man, it looks like it's doing everything you could ask for down there. But for those that don't know, that's what that hunt's all about. And you probably heard us talking about it on some of these other guests. But and the last thing I want to talk about too for the Around the House section is the podcast series books will be opening this weekend. And let me kind of rephrase how I say that. The way we're going to do it is, if I'm not giving out any numbers this weekend. You can go back and check any of my posts, any of the stuff. You know, what we're going to do is there is a cutoff limit for each hunt. So, as in how many dogs. So, like, there's 80 dogs for Flower Hill and Double C. So, the first 40 people that call to get on the list are going to be able to get numbers. And that way everybody can bring at least 2 dogs. You know, if somebody calls and says, all right, I only want 1, then somebody on the waiting list will get the next spot. That's how I want to do it. But anyway, you can go back and look at those fine details. But what I really wanted to explain to people is a couple things. For one, if you want to trade if you want to trade judging a hunt for running a hunt, I will do it. If you want to trade 2 hunts for 2 hunts, I will do it. I will not trade 2 hunts for 3 hunts. I will not trade 1 hunt for 3 hunts. You have a max of 3 hunts. So when you call, if you don't want to trade and you call Saturday and try to get on Saturday, you have a max of 3 hunts. I will do. All I need you to do is when you call, tell me your name, your phone number, and what 3 hunts you want to do. Okay, I want to write them down as you give them to me, and that's going to be it. That's going to be where we're at. That's all I need. And I'm probably going to hang up right after after I write your third one down. I'm going to say, thanks for calling. I'll be in touch. I'm going to do that until the phone stops ringing that day. I know it's going to be a very long day. It's going to be a lot of writing. It's going to be a lot going on. But I want to make sure to give the best opportunity for the most amount of people to get numbers. That's the whole purpose behind it. So if you don't get up with me ahead of time to get on the list and do the swap, and you call Saturday, then just tell me those couple things and then be done. And then I will get back with everybody in the order that you called, and get you your numbers. A couple notes is, don't call me Saturday, and if I tell you that you're on the waiting list, say, well, I'll judge this hunt. No, you should have got it with me ahead of time. I can't, at that point, I've already told these people that, hey, you're in. I can't call them back and say, oh, well, this guy, and this guy, and this guy said they were going to judge, so that knocks you out. No, that's not how that's going to work. If you don't get up with me before Saturday and offer the just swap for, the judging for running, then you got to take your chances. So that's just a PSA on that. That's how that's going to work. I hope that all makes sense. If there are any questions, please just message me. My phone number's on everything. Text me. I'm on Facebook. Call, whatever. Just if you need help understanding, please just let me know. But that's all I got for Around the Hound for this week. Let's move into the Spotlight. It's now time for the Spotlight, presented by Cajun Lights. This is where each week we will recognize winners and other accomplishments across the field trial world. Now let's shine a lights on these guys and these dogs, and let's get to this week's winners. All right, on this episode for the Spotlight, presented by Cajun Lights, not a whole lot of hunts. I didn't see any multi-day hunts, any big hunts going on last weekend. So what we're going to talk about is the update on the one-day option. Masters one-day option was just released. Madison put that out today, and right now at Kennel of the Year is Tart Kennels, and it is just leading by 10 little points over the Highwayman. And then your Hound of the Year right now is Tart's Skeeter. So just a little update on that stuff that I seen it as it was coming out. So that's really all I got. And I just wanted to take this second and thank y'all so much for listening. I hope everybody is doing well. Good luck to everybody down there at the All-American. And I hope everybody has a good hunt down there. We'll talk about it next week for sure. And hopefully by next week we have our guests lined up and get them recorded. So, all right, everybody, thank y'all so much for listening. Thank y'all for bearing with me on getting these guests back on here. But other than that, thank y'all so much. And like always, guys, happy hunting.